Okay, it's 6:04. Call the meeting of the Wareham Finance Committee to order. Mr. Clerk, may I ask for a roll call, please?
Sure. We have Chairman Bernie Pigeon and Jody Smith, Stuart Novick, Glenn Lawrence, and myself, Jerry Stefanski. So we have 5 of 9. We're good to go.
Thank you. Just a note, the minutes of this meeting down the bottom of your screen, voice going on, what you're saying, and there is a transcript that is automatically made of this meeting, and it can be printed out, which helps us with our meeting minutes. In addition, our meeting is
Okay, so when you look at the bottom, the 28,652,623 and the 2,050,450, the total was 30,703,073. That was what the school committee originally voted in December 17th, 2020. Now with the additional funds from the town, it's really 140,000 to increase what the school committee already voted. But in order to preserve our budget, the original budget number at 32,503,073, we can still use circuit breaker funds, the COVID funds, and some of the 1.8 million that we expect to get after July 1st. This way, we don't expect that there'll be any more cuts and there will be no layoffs.
So the budget from old to new is 140,000 more.
Correct.
And that's you not having to use the stabilization.
Right. We did. Yep. We decided to preserve the stabilization because we were getting, the over $1.8 million with the second round of COVID funds. They call it ESSER too.
What's a ESSER stand for? Do you know?
Students, I don't know.
You got to be a GS-18 in the government to know, I guess, huh?
Yeah, well, there's so many acronyms for so many different things that I could look it up and tell you, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
By the time you look it up, they'll change it anyway, so forget it.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Elementary. Yeah, he's got it.
Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Why don't we just call it COVID too?
COVID too? Okay.
Can those COVID funds be used for anything?
They're being a little more lenient than they were in the first round of COVID funds, yes.
So they're not restricted to anything?
Nope.
Because I think the first restriction was you couldn't use it for operational.
Right. And this one, the big thing on this one, you can use it for some capital items to improve this school building, like for the airflow, or, it has to stem around COVID, or you could use it for salaries if you had to bring extra people in to run the operation, or you could use it for supplies. You could use it. It seems to me that it's a lot less restrictive than the first round of funds.
But whatever we're going to use it for would survive an audit.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes. It's going to run just like any other grant would. Kim and I will do the application early April. It's an entitlement grant, so we know we're getting it. So we just fill out the application of what we intend to use it on, and then they approve that, and we move forward and request funds as needed. And also with the grants, you can always amend them if it's somewhere down the line you think you're going to use X, but then it comes out it's going to be Y. So there's flexibility.
What's fiscal year 21 going to end up at?
What do you mean?
How much are you going to spend this year to run the schools?
Well, the town appropriated $29,430,737. And we expect to use some circuit breaker and some COVID. I'm not there yet. I've just started the process of projecting out for the end of the year. And looking at the different sources of revenue.
Well, we ought to start comparing what we spend in 21 against what we're proposed to spend in 22, don't you think?
Yeah, well, that's what, when we did the original budget presentation, that's what you saw.
That did not include spent. That was budgeted versus budgeted, not
Okay.
actual expenditure.
What spent? Yeah. Okay.
But Christine has been supplying monthly reports, as far as what is being spent to date. She's been very good about supplying the school committee with those reports.
And it actually shows the school committee what's been budgeted, what's been spent, and also if there's any encumbrances. So then we look at they can review the percentages that's available for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and that's all on the school committee website too. It's available to the public.
That is correct.
Your monthly spreadsheets, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your circuit breaker funds of $900,000, that's going to supplement what your SPED?
Yes, special education costs, yes.
Yeah. And the stabilization that you refer that you're not using, that's the fund I recall that requires both the school committee and the selectmen to approve any expenditures from that or transfers out of that fund, isn't it?
That is correct. That's how I understand it.
Yes.
So we can preserve that.
I was just going to say, we're very happy to be able to leave that there, that we won't need it for this budget year. We'll leave it there in savings for when it is needed.
It's wonderful that we have that option.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, have you made any adjustments in this budget for assuming the expenses for the new elementary school? I won't go so far as to call it something.
In what sense? I mean, I know that we've budgeted enough for utilities. We've budgeted additional funds for moving. We've budgeted, the salaries like we would normally if we didn't go into a new school. We've budgeted, enough for, custodial supplies and such, et cetera, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, have you determined a time frame as to when you're going to assume those costs within the budget?
Well, the plan right now would be that once we move into that school building and we have some stragglers left for Minot and Deacon's, is to get those off the books and then combine those accounts. So except for the instructional accounts, they'll stay separate. But all the other ones, either the 1,000s and the 3,000s, 4,000s, 5,000s, 6,000, 7, 8, 9,000s they will be combined once the Deacon's is given back and they move into the new school.
Well, you speak of a move-in date, and I'm thinking more of a contractual date, because when Beacon is done with it, they turn it over to the town, and we begin absorbing the expenses of just letting it sit there, for that matter, until we move students in there.
Can you say that again? Well,
Beacon is going to be done supposedly October 15th. There's 5 weeks ahead of time. The school department is going to have to absorb power, heat, et cetera, for that building, even though it's empty, because we're contractually obligated to take it over. And when your students move in, that's another issue. But I'm just concerned that you're going to be operating a brand new building, just heating it and lighting it until you move the students in and empty out the middle school and Deacon's. I'm sure you're including that increased cost while you're still operating the school system as it currently sits.
Yeah, it's my understanding that when Beacon turns over the school, then we're going to be moving in. I don't know if there's going to be a lag time. Is there, Kim?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little lag time because once we take possession, that's when we start moving furniture, et cetera, in. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we're working on is the planning to have everything, which we know it really won't happen, but arrive when we need it so we can just get it right in and then start the move. And so that's one of the pieces that we're looking at right now is that coordination. Our goal is once we take possession to be moved in within 4 to 6 weeks. Thanksgiving time. We'll be very grateful when it's done.
That's when you call on the finance committee to come on over and move stuff around.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It'll save us some money on the moving costs.
You bet.
Wait a minute now.
But Bernie, as you know, so the budget was developed for the utilities with the report that was supplied by PMA, you know, as far as what the utilities will cost over in that new building. That was all taken into account when Christine and Kim, you know, made this budget.
Yeah, I'm just confirming that it is included in there.
Yes.
It's an increased cost, so as when you run it simultaneously. And I saw the reports too, and I didn't, well, because of the cost, and when you consider the size of the building, yeah, it's going to be increased cost. I'm hoping we break even, considering the efficiencies in that building.
Yeah, the efficiencies in that building, from what I could see just by looking at, is going to be amazing compared to what we're paying now at the other schools. It's you're definitely going to see you'll see that you're going to recognize some savings once we move everyone in there.
I noticed in the presentation some of your pre-K and the K, you anticipating an increase in the number of students?
We do. You know, right now we've seen a large rise in pre-K with students needing services. We've had also a number of students that are school choice that are coming in at kindergarten and first grade. We anticipate that school choice students will continue to rise once we're in that new school, to the point of where we're really going to have to keep a very close eye on it, just because of the number of students that we anticipate that are Wareham residents coming in.
Where are these students coming from? School choice.
We've had some coming in from Bourne, from Fall River, from New Bedford. So we're starting to see more school choice students at the elementary level applying than we have in the past.
And that's because of the new building?
Well, I think that's part of it, but I also think it's because we have such dynamic educational programs in our district.
Are you still running the baccalaureate program?
We are, yes.
How many students do you have in that?
Oh, well, I think about 24, but I'll have to check to get the actual number for you. Yeah.
In the high school, all right?
It's in the high school, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate for a population when the school opens, when the new school opens? Do you have a number for that?
We're targeting right about 1,000 students.
That's a lot of kids.
It sure is, yeah.
A lot of noise.
Yeah.
But the total student body is how much? Less than 2,000, isn't it?
About 2,000, about 2,100. Mm-hmm.
In addition to the students moving into the new building, how many staff members do you anticipate?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question. I'll have to get that to you. We have a total of 222. So I would say approximately, probably about 100.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
I think one of the things that we've been able to do with this budget and then with the fall town money is we've been able to start addressing capital needs. And we feel pretty good about what we've done and what we'll continue to do. I think the interesting thing that we're watching is the ESSER 3 funds that could be coming to us. Right now, ESSER 2 was 1.8. And what we hear is ESSER 3 could be about 4 times that amount. And that would just be a lovely problem to have.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. The House passed it, so now it's moving up. So we'll see.
It's in this budget proposal, or the 1.9
Biden's-
trillion. It's in that 1.9 trillion.
Yes, correct.
That 4 times figure you just mentioned.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Oh, we'll see. But that's an awful lot of money if you figure it's 4 times 1.8.
The municipalities have a very large program too, and that mix possibly coming as well.
Oh, yes.
I think it's 3 times the size of the school back. See what happens.
Yep. Just wait and see.
All we can do.
Maybe Tom Brady will come back.
No.
He's not coming back.
No.
Nice and warm.
He's enjoying the warmth down there.
Yeah.
So Bernie, I just want to acknowledge that, you know, the town has been very supportive through all of this, of the schools, and especially now with this budget. You know, usually we're here at this meeting talking about what cuts we're going to have to make, and you know, to be able to not have to do that this year is really great, and really appreciative of the support from the town.
Oh, thank you. And I think it's great, because I was very surprised when you proposed the budget and what you were going to be able to do. And I do hope we have a repeat next year in the same situation too. I encourage you to continue that.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yes.
It would, definitely.
I hope we can do something with the new school. Anything else? Any other questions regarding the budget? Everyone chip in $1 and we should be able to take care of everything.
Yeah.
And how many are there? No, excuse me, let me rephrase that. How much of this budget is regarding capital projects or capital purchases, Kim?
And you know what? Not a lot of the budget. I've been able to do the capital work with the $500,000 that the town had given us. And I also have, once we get reimbursed by Plymouth County, we'll be able to finish some major projects that we've never been able to touch. We have put a new roof on the portable at the high school. We've had the windows repaired in the classrooms at the high school. We're putting new chillers at the middle school that have been in non-working order for probably 25 years. We're replacing flooring. We're really upgrading the HVAC. We're looking at doors. And the project that we would like to tackle in the summertime, and I believe that we'll be able to do that, is the fire alarm suppression system, which is about $250,000 at the high school. So we would like to be able to have everything finished by when school opens.
Have you been utilizing the $500,000 that the town meeting gave you?
Yes. Yeah. It's been very helpful, actually, that, you know, we can pick things off that I just never thought we'd be able to do. So that's really nice. So once our schools open back up and we let people in, please, we'd like you to come and see all the improvements, the painting that's been going on. It's going to be there. All 3 of our buildings will be in very nice shape.
Are there any special programs that you're bringing on for when the children come back into school full time that we apply for this budget also?
You know, that's an interesting question, and that we're really looking at that. You know, we have some students that have done fairly well virtually. The commissioner has said, though, once we come back, there will be no more offer for virtual school. However, there is a virtual academy that we could apply for and become a virtual academy school. So we're really looking at that. That's not included in this budget, but that's one program that we certainly are giving serious consideration to as we begin to open up and bring students back, because we think there's going to be a need.
And there could be other funding sources available to us at some point, even though it's not in the proposed budget right now. I mean, that could be a possibility, right, Kim? There could be funding from somewhere else to do that.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking when all the children come back, no matter what level, that they may not be as at the same level that they would have anticipated had they had in-classroom teaching for this entire year. So there may be a new level of special needs when they come in, because they've been deprived a lot of things. An article recently in the paper that commenting about all the heroes that we have during this whole COVID process. We can't forget the students that isolated them. They're away from their friends and every things that they're supposed to learn during this time frame of their age, they haven't even been able to do for a year. And so that you may have to consider some programs to try and bring them up to speed.
Yeah, we've already started implementing some of those. We have beefed up our social workers. And so we now are just getting ready to bring on 3 additional social workers that will be working with students either virtually or face-to-face when we bring them back. And these are all grant funds that we've been able to obtain. So it's really not coming from the LEA budget. We also will be bringing in some additional staff at the elementary level to work with our students. Actually, we're bringing on 2 that will work with students that have not made significant progress during this time, and they'll be ready and on board in the next couple of weeks. We've already started looking at our summer programming, because I do know that there's some students that are remote, that as soon as we can get some of our remote students back in the building, they're going to need some help. So we're looking at summer programming and really just making this school year go right on through the summer. And how do we address those needs? So that certainly is on our radar. As far as next year, then we'll kind of see where we're at. Interestingly enough, though, some of the testing that we're just completing and assessments with our students is showing that we're not seeing that much of a drop in their achievement. And that's, that speaks volumes to their base that they've received in the last several years that they've been able to maintain. Of course, that's not everyone, but for the majority, we've been pretty pleased with our results. And we'll continue to assess and see where we're at.
Well, you ought to still consider that remote teaching is part of the new mix.
It is.
And it's for night schools and things of that nature. It's amazing what you're going to be able to do. So you just polish that, keep polishing that baby.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I talked about today with my superintendent advisory committee, we were thrilled when we were able to give the teachers the Chromebooks, because boy, that met their needs. And through this process, what we found, the teachers have upped their tech skills so much and have used such, various programming and now are becoming more and more tech savvy, that our Chromebooks are really, the memory and the capabilities aren't enough. And so it's really hampering some of our teachers from being able to expand. So we're having to look at what options we can provide them with to continue that enhancement for our students. So that's a nice problem to have, something that we didn't anticipate.
Yeah. And Kim, for extra funds, I would encourage you to call on the Plymouth County, because in our recent Association of Town Finance Committees meeting, it was commented that Plymouth County was the only one that didn't turn their COVID funds back to the state, as the state was requesting them to do. And as a result, we have more monies available on the county level that others do not. So feel free to call a few people.
Okay. Good to know. Maybe that will pay for my chillers.
Did I hear somewhere that the state's talking about doing statewide testing?
Yes. Can you believe that?
Well, I can, but I'm not sure how it would work. Have you heard any? I mean, it's hard to put kids in one part of the state up against kids in another part of the state. I see all kinds of pitfalls in that, but you think it's going to happen?
Yeah, I do. I think that it's all going to be online, and we're already starting to gear up for it and get our devices how they need to be. The interesting thing on that is bringing the remote students in. I'm not sure the reception some of our remote students will have of coming back into the buildings. That's going to be the interesting part. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that MCAS, I would say it'd be useful as a guide to allow you to measure where your students are after this whole year of so much remote learning, but not go into the main scoring process and use it as a guide.
We hope that that's the philosophy the state has too.
Alan, did you want to say something?
Just that Tom O'Brien is the treasurer for Plymouth County, Kim. You can also contact Derek. We speak to him all the time. Plymouth County basically took the money from the federal government directly because they had 500,000 people or more population, which allowed them to do that, as did Boston. So they still have funds.
Oh, good. Okay.
If you need any contacts, just call me or Derek.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
I know that you and Bernie, you and David were able to go out and tour the school, and you saw how beautiful it is. It's so exciting to be able to get out there. And, we talk about how great it is for the students and the families, and it really is, but it's really great for our whole community. It's just really exciting. I'm really looking forward. The whole community came together to fund, to build that school. And it's really going to be a place, not just for the students who go there. I think it's going to be a place for the whole community. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, I was hoping for the next item on our agenda to hear from Chad, but unfortunately there was a mix-up in the notification, and he and Mark were not aware of this. But as you pointed out, David and I had toured it, so it was very, very interesting. And so I'll ask David to start, if you would. What was your impression, David?
Well, the thing that's impressive of it is it really is a school for the future.
Excuse me.
Compare that against the schools that we've had, which are old schools. But the new school, the way it's laid out, the size of the rooms, the features that are built into it are just amazing. And I think that also the colors are great. It's going to be an area that I think the kids are going to love to go into it. And I really hope we have an open house that we can bring the community in to show them what has been done, what has been accomplished, because the staff has done a great job of defining their requirements. The architect has done a good job of interpreting them, putting it together. And, obviously the construction folks are working hard to get it all done, and getting it done ahead of schedule and amazingly under budget is just wonderful. I mean, it really is a real compliment for everybody who's been involved. And I think I'm sure, as Kim said, we're going to be getting people who want to come. And part of it is going to be the new school. That's going to be a very attractive item for people to go and spend their time in, the kids.
When I was first on this committee, the building committee, I was part of the group of three of us who went into Boston, and we observed the presentations of the architects and chose Mount Vernon to do it. One of the, when they asked what we were looking for, there was some, say, 18 people into that room, and I said, look out the windows. We were on the 5th floor. Look out the windows. I don't want to see buildings like the surrounding that building, as these were all constructed by adults for adults. I want to see a building that is for children. Now, when I walked up or drove up to the building, it looked something like a building. But once you walk in, it's not the same thing as an office building, far from it. These great long corridors, and there is several long corridors, they're broken up by walls sticking in. There's nothing straight about them. There's various cubbies, there's colors. There might be 6 or different colors as you walk down a corridor. That's on the walls. On the floor, same thing. There are large strips. They're one color. There must be, I think, about 6 different colors on the floor, right, David?
The floors are really beautiful.
Well, and each one is scattered with mica, so it glitters as you walk down. And the lighting overhead, it's not just one long fluorescent down the center of the corridor. Off of each wall is kind of like a drop ceiling, going maybe 2.5 feet in depth. And then each one has probably a 24-inch light bar going at various angles. And there's all these bars going all the way down the corridor. And this is a corridor that's half finished now that I'm describing. Not that I can just imagine what is left to go in. And everything's a different color. Every walls are different colors. There's a great variety. And it's not just you're on one floor, so you're on one color. It's a different set of colors. You go on another floor, there's another set of colors. You go into the other half of the building, which may be the other school, like the mine part, and there's another set over there. There's great variety going through. Have to watch the steps. They're all the little ones for short people. But it's just absolutely beautiful. And in the classrooms, about 900 square feet, weren't they, David?
That's what they were saying, yes.
Yeah, and David, he and his daughter went in looking at some condos over the weekend, and a 1-bedroom condo was about 900 square feet. And so you can imagine the size of the classroom. No echoes, but the kids, it's going to be absolutely delightful for them. I can just envision they'll love it. And I'd say all the decorative pieces are going in now, but the ceilings, they're drop ceilings, they're different shapes, circles, squares are jutting out, meeting areas in the hall itself, classrooms, they're fully equipped with absolutely everything. Hope they all come with instruction books. But it's amazing what they're doing inside. Things are huge. You'll go in these buildings. We went into one room, it was full of all the chillers and everything. It's enormous. And all the way through the building, it's nicely air conditioned. There's nothing left out. Even the offices where the principals are, they're nicely set, conference rooms, etc. It's beautiful, beautiful. That's why Alan mentioned if Kim's office was over there. Sure, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it is, it's truly a beautiful building. And I think the kids will absolutely love it. I think they'll find out it will be their building the way it's put together. Internally, it's really their building. Externally, there's, it's not a Lego blocks or anything of that nature, of course. But you get inside and everything is different. They're not going to be bored.
It's so exciting. I'm so happy to be part of it and be able to, I've watched some of the videos on the Facebook. I don't know who's been walking around. I've watched those, and it's very, very exciting. I'm really happy to be here in Wareham and be part of it. It's great. It's going to be the place to be. That's for sure.
It is. It is. I don't think, Kim, if you have any openings, recruitment shouldn't be a problem.
No.
Anything else? And Kim, with the new building, I was kind of letting Jeff know how I felt about it. If I would suggest approach the committee as to ask them for everything you can possibly imagine that you may need or may have to impact your operating budget. Considering there's a contingency fund, we fortunately have not had a necessity of using. There's some monies that are going to pay for it, and we might as well do it and get it all completed for you and make sure everything is brand spanking new. Don't bring anything old over.
No, no. I think we'll have to have an inspection of everything that's going to be put on the truck to say, yes, you can take it, or no, you can't.
I think if they gain an understanding of, as let's say the principal offices, what's actually going to be in there as far as furniture and the like for them, that they don't have to bring that desk they've had so many years.
No, they don't. No.
Well, if there's actually a contingency that can be spent, we may want to wait a little time and see what actually pans out as to what's needed that isn't there. Because there's going to be something that we didn't think of.
I know. I always call it the higher echelon wastebasket managers, because no matter what they put in, if they don't remember a wastebasket, it's all lost. Any further questions?
I got an idea that you can go out and get a company that does drones, and you can fly a drone through the building and use it as a promotional item or a way to show the town what's happening today and what it's going to be as a working process for you. I've seen some very, very good ones.
I think
they fly it into every classroom. I mean, it's like a tour.
Yeah.
And you could put it on WCTV could do it. It could show it for you, but it would a way to bring the community into the building without disturbing it initially.
Yeah.
So Tom, they have been doing some of that. The videos, they did one yesterday. They do it once a month, and they do a video. It's on Facebook. And they go, Mark does the tour through the whole building. So once a month you can get a look inside the building and see where they're at and all the different spaces. And you can really see the difference from month to month, the progress that they're making. Not that a drone isn't a great idea, but just so you know, they are trying to do something like that every month.
And is it open? Anybody can see it?
Anybody can see it. Yep. Well, it's on Facebook, so I'm not sure. If you're not on Facebook, I'm not sure how you would see it, but I'll try to find out for you. I'll try to see if I can email you that video.
Okay.
I think they're saving them too, right? So you can look at it at a later time.
You know what? I believe it's on the website. So I'll try to send the link to the website, Tom, for that video.
I'll try to send you a video of a school I saw recently.
Okay.
With a drone going through. I mean, it's a good way to show the kids what it's going to be like, what the parents are going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we talked about something on that level several months ago in the committee meeting.
Oh.
Have a group go through the internal. Right now, there's a lot of construction going on and the like. I don't think a drone would be able to get very far with all the hanging wires and the like, unless it had someone sitting inside it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know the committee had talked about something on more professional level of doing it with a drone and all. I recall that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going to tell me that I should get a drone that will clean, because I saw that a baseball stadium now has a drone that will sterilize the seats, and you fly it down and it sprays your disinfectant on the seats, and so you could cover the whole stadium in very short time. And I thought, that is what we need.
What will they think of next?
I know.
No, don't suggest it. They'll come up with something. Any other?
I hope you're planning on having robots in there and everything else. I'm serious.
Yeah.
For educating these kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this has got to be. You got to think of these kids are getting out 20 years from now, and who knows what the world's going to be like 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Now, regarding the cleaning and all, because you can think of in terms of all the buffers going all across the floors and the other corridors and the like. As we were walking through, we were constantly cautioned about stepping up, because the Parazzo floors, David, I would say about 1.5 inches thick.
They're top of the stairs. Yes, there is a.
Yeah, on the stairs, and even the corridors and all were exceptionally thick. And that's going to be a long while. It's going to last, the floors will last 50 years anyway.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that you like all the colors, because I was just one member of a color committee. So happy to hear you like the colors.
Well, colors tend to break up the line of sight in your head, and it gives it that variety that you're always walking into something different. And it's not the sameness. Sameness to get boring.
Well, like you said earlier, the architect and the project manager, they've just done a really, really great job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vernon has done an excellent job in designing that whole place. Mm-hmm. Any further questions or concerns on the budget or the new building? Anything at all?
Well, I had one question. Did we ever finish the track, the repairs on the track?
No, it's still waiting to go into the registry, I believe, central registry, to get the bids.
Be nice to get that done.
Yes, it would.
Will be nice. Yes. I was walking there a little while ago thinking the same thing, David.
Yep. I know it was repaired. There were modifications made to it, improvements, but it really needs just a good overhaul and just be good for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we kind of had a grace period because they were threatening to discredit the program because of the condition of the track. But with the COVID, we've kind of have a year's grace period.
Right. Nobody was out there running from the school. There are people who use it all the time, but we didn't have track meets there. Yes.
Yeah. Well, if there's nothing else, we're moving on to the special town meeting and to take the votes on it. And we have Article 1, which is the Wareham Tigers. And I apologize, no. Article 2 is the dissolving of an existing lease on the property which abuts the soccer fields. And the Wareham Tigers are interested in it, and so in able to them to get a lease, we have to dissolve the existing lease, which was created a number of years ago when there was an interest in developing that area for housing. So in that case, entertain a motion for Article 2 to dissolve that lease that I referred to.
Can we release the school people?
I was just going to say, can I just say good night and thank you?
Yes, good night, Joyce.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stuart, can you speak up, please?
Yeah, I was just going to say, let these folks go home. I mean, they've got other stuff to do.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
Hey, can I have a motion on Article 2 to dissolve the existing lease?
I will make a motion to authorize with dissolving of the existing lease because it never went through and nothing ever used that property.
Second.
Right. Motion's been made and seconded. Who seconded it?
I did.
Jody.
Jody, okay, thank you.
I'm gonna let him guess. Jody, I did.
Okay, the motion's made and seconded. Any discussion? Questions? There being none, I'll call the roll. Jerry?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Stuart?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
That's 6. That's 6 of us? Yes. 6-0-0. Thank you. And the next one is Article 3.
There's 7 of us.
7. Bernie, 7-0-0.
7 of us, yeah.
7-0-0. My apologies. Thank you very much. And Article 3, which is to authorize to enter into negotiations for a lease with Wareham Tigers for that property. I believe it's about 19 acres. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Jody's made a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
David seconded. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I guess my question is who is going to enter into negotiations, is it the town manager for the selectmen, and the selectmen then approve the lease?
Yes.
Okay. Because we got an 11 with a lot of zeros behind it. I'm not sure if it's all going to happen, but I would like, when the lease is considered, there might be the possibility of not doing all the acreage at one time and tying all it up. Just my thought, because it's going to take a long time to get everything that was on that wish list. And I really don't know if we want to tie up all that land for that amount of time, not knowing if they're going to get all the money, be able to raise all the money.
Indeed. I think that was the maximum amount that they were interested in. And right. When the negotiation goes in, I'm certain that cost-wise, they'll be reduced. As you point out, it would be more practical because they can always extend or expand after that when they get their basic fields installed.
Right. It's just I like to see the lease taken slowly, acres at a time rather than a whole lot, Yeah,
because it puts a liability on their fundraising.
Yeah, exactly.
Any further questions or discussion?
Well, I'm a long way from seeing those guys raising $15 million.
No, indeed.
For 30 and having control over this land for 30 years. I mean, it just doesn't. They have not demonstrated, as far as I can say, the ability to raise the money, and B, I don't think they have the plans wrapped up to what they're planning to do it, how they're going to do it, and how they're going to make it happen. I would think we'd leave that land open, consider the possibility of weed clearing the land so that they can have a football field there if they want one. But for anybody to use, rather than let these people come in and control a nice piece of property for 30 years without having any deliverable. And also it appears to be a moneymaker. That's their objective.
Well, they can't make 501.
Yeah, they're nonprofit.
Yeah, but they can pay themselves very well.
Nonprofits can make money. Believe me.
Yeah, I know. I've been involved in a number of these projects, building football fields and all that. And you really have to start out slow. I've seen gravel pits. If you went down Sandwich, which isn't too far behind the Stop and Shop down at the complex they put in, it probably took them 5 to 7 years before it finally got to be a really decent playing field and all that. And Foxborough, the same thing. It took them probably a few more years than that before they finally got it. But nothing to this magnitude that, $8 to $15 million. I just can't even imagine how you raise that kind of money. I've been involved in football my entire adult life. I've been through many of these projects, and it takes my breath away to think about how much they think they can raise. I can tell you, Wareham, I don't know if you guys remember when they took that football team to Florida, they raised about $80,000 in a month. They did a phenomenal job.
Wow.
The times are different right now.
Indeed. As far as the terms of the lease, I believe that the 30 years is parallel to the terms with the softball and the soccer organizations, because they also have leases on their properties.
Yeah, I think that's the maximum number of years that towns can do now. One time they used to give 99-year leases.
Yes.
Can't do that anymore.
Yeah, that was mentioned in the discussion we had last time. And I think talking about the $14 million he intends to raise and all, probably over time they could accumulate that total number. But as Jody knows from experience, we raise some monies for a particular project, let's say to clear the fields, but that's, as Jody indicates, could be a couple years. It's going to be time. All these projects are volunteers, and they're all for the kids, of course, but the property isn't doing anything right now, and the town itself has no interest in doing anything. We don't have a Parks and Recreation department for maintenance or running programs such as that. So if they get the property and takes them 5 years to get it cleared and finally start a field, well, okay. And from my point of view, the property isn't doing anything anyway. It has potential if they want to try to exercise it. Let them try. I've been in volunteer organizations for a number of years, as well as Jody has. And we both know there's always the grand scheme, and yet there's always what you can actually accomplish.
Why do we have to give them a lease for it?
Because they can't do anything with the land until they have a lease.
They could come in and get permission from the town to clear it and put a football field there. They don't have to have control of the property.
It's town
they
property.
Got parking lots, and it's just it's amazing what they're trying to think they can do. A guy lives in Dennis. I mean,
he lives in Dennis.
Huh?
He works in Dennis.
Well, where does he live?
He lives in Wareham. He lives up I think Glen Charlie Road, up in that area somewhere.
Okay, all right.
So, Tom, what would you suggest we do?
What I would suggest we do is say, if you want to give them a lease for 4 years, or you can give him a lease for 30 years, but if he doesn't do X, Y, Z in the first 3, the lease comes back to the town. The land comes back to the town.
We would make the length of the lease contingent on what they raise.
And what they accomplish.
What they accomplish.
Okay.
I mean, there's a good possibility that football will only be available for kids 15 years and older. I mean, there's a lot of indefinites about the whole program and why we need cheerleaders when the cheerleader program could be within the school system. It's it doesn't ring solid for me as a worthwhile project.
I hate to say I know a lot about cheerleading, but competitive cheerleading at that age is very competitive. There's a lot of gyms out here. I mean, I'm probably one of the few guys that could judge a cheerleading competition and referee a football game all in the same day. But it's very competitive. A lot of young people are involved in cheerleading. And okay, there's a lot of money being made in it. Some of these gyms, these all-star gyms, as they call them, these kids, and I know what his goal is. A lot of these kids that are in these competitive, I'm not talking sideline cheerleading. You know how you see them down the football games and all that?
Well, no, they did. Wareham's got some ones with raising flags and stuff like that. They've got some very good groups.
Competitive cheerleading, they have to have gymnastics, and they have to have a whole bunch of other things. It's not just going on the sideline and jumping up and down. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of money in it. I mean, I know that as fact. I mean, I can tell you a cheerleading competition. If I rented out Wareham High School and we had a cheerleading competition for competitive cheerleading, I'd probably turn a $30,000 or $40,000 profit.
Yeah, I think, Tom, that perhaps we're too far removed from that age group.
Yeah, it goes all the way down to 8 years old. I can tell you, the league I was involved in, they would send, probably 50 to 60 cheer squads from New England down to Disney World to compete at the All-Star, ESPN facility down there. They actually built one gym, that they use for basketball and stuff, but they built 2 just for cheerleading. Massive facilities.
So wait a minute, Alan wants to say something. Alan?
I met today with Jared and Jim and East also because we had some questions and we wanted some more detail work and stuff. Jared does live in Wareham, obviously. The school has actually asked him to add a couple of programs to his program that the school can't afford or doesn't have the ability to run. The cheerleading program probably has 80 kids in it, just so you know. The football team is probably closer to 200 kids, and they have 3 or 4 other things. And the school also asked them to run some other kind of sports program as well if they get this going. When we spoke to him today, he said that he's looking at probably realistically 5 years to get this up and running. It's easy to get the field cleared. he raises the money to clear the field and then go ahead and surface the field to its level, etc. He does have one benefactor. I believe it's some huge banker where he actually knows the person because he comes from Nantucket actually. So he has a couple of people that have really unlimited cash, and they do this type of thing as benefactors. It's not unusual for some of these people to give $2 or $3 million out without thinking about it. So he has contacts, etc. So you have to give him a little bit of credit for what he's doing. He's not sitting and throwing stuff out with his pie in the sky. And the explanation that Jim and I were concerned about was, do you really need all this land up front? And I think that may be a town meeting that might get adjusted down and give him control of certain things. He wants, I think Jim wanted the parking lot area to be under the town's control rather than have to have these guys, pay for a parking area. And obviously there have to be a septic system for the different buildings, for bathrooms, etc., because there is no sewer up there. And the idea was probably to put a septic system underneath the parking area. So there's a lot more to this, but the bottom line is that this is a really strong possibility to make it work. He's not sitting there throwing stuff out with no idea it's going to happen. And he is working with the school. He's working with the Boys and Girls Club as much as he could. It really had a lot of problems there. So, I mean, it's just, there are questions, and I don't disagree with the idea of, that if you give him a lease for 30 years, there's going to have to be some performance points there. But he's not saying he's going to have this done in 2 or 3 years and up and running and everything will be fine. It's a big project and it takes time. And it does take money. And you've got 3 organizations that are already going to be using those facilities.
Which comes first, though, Alan? Which comes first? I mean, if he has access to sugar daddy, shouldn't that sugar daddy come and say, okay, I'm going to be part of this and I'm in it for X amount of money initially to get it off the ground?
No, because of this property, the property is Wareham's property. It was originally assigned for school and for housing. It's being taken out because nobody could develop the Westfield property for housing because there's no sewer, etc. Plus, when that article came before town meeting, someone put a poison pen into it, a poison pill, excuse me, in that they had to have certain types of things in there, like they had to maintain the fields and everything. So any developer that came in could not afford to build housing up there because they also had to take care of the fields, etc. That piece got in there and killed it. The town tried to find a developer who was a pretty large one, came in and they bailed out because it wasn't going to work. So what you have to have is you have to have a lease. You have to have something solid in front of you. It's no different than when we have host agreements for marijuana companies, retail. They have to have a host agreement. The first thing to do is they have to maintain or secure a building and have either an actual lease or a firm, purchase and sell or whatever before they can even get a host agreement. This is the same idea. He's got to have something in place in order to go and do something because they are a 501c3. And when they get a contribution, they have to be able to show that it's viable. Nobody's going to go give you money unless you have something in place.
That's fine. But what happens, you give them 30 years and 10 years into it, nothing's going on.
I would say that you put something into the lease that Derek would do, that there's a time frame. After 5 years, you have to be at a certain point. And if not, then you can cancel the lease up. I mean, when you give someone a 30-year lease, normally what you do is you have a certain point where you go back in and certain things have to be met. And if not, then you can either party can bail out if you want. I've never seen a lease more than 5 years that the town does that we usually renew after 5 years. You don't just give 30-year lease out and walk away. It's financially and irresponsible. I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure that's too strong a word, but if the town was to do that, it's irresponsible to do it. I have faith in what he's trying to do, but again, faith is nice, but you have to see what actually comes out down the line.
But what is this? What is he asking us to do?
Well, I think he's asking for the 30-year lease accepted, but I think at town meeting, there's no reason that if we have to, that you can't, put in there and say, look, we'll give you this much land for now, get that done, and then we'll keep moving along as we go. You're going to have to change the article a little bit. I don't know how you're going to vote personally right now.
I think we should sit down with this person or the people in the town who do this and describe what kind of milestones are necessary. come up with the basic terms of the lease, and that's what you put in front of it.
I mean, you could ask if Derek wants to come sit down with you, and whether Jared wants to sit down and talk about it. This is one of these things that, it's, you got a board of a selectmen that puts an article up. Then you have the town administrator has to do all the negotiating and everything. And then when it's all said and done, then it comes before the board of selectmen. Town administrator has control of the property. The town meeting has to actually vote to allow it to happen. So it's actually, this is in the hands of the voters anyways, at the end of the day. If the voters don't feel comfortable with what's explained to them, they vote no, that's it. It's not an easy thing.
Well, but if this gentleman wants to get it passed, and you admit that it's going to be a multi-step process, he ought to come up with us what the steps he wants to run through in asking for the 30 years.
Well, why don't you go ahead and ask him to come in? He's
getting approved.
He's more than happy to come in and talk to you. Jim and East had questions of selectmen.
Well, he stumbled on that question a week ago.
Well, why don't you have him come back again? It's either that or I can't tell you how to vote, but maybe you vote, no action because you don't know, you're not comfortable with the information you have. That's your call. As a selectman, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I can't.
I know if I had a project like this, I would have had some plan beforehand to demonstrate what my intents were. He gave us a verbal description of what his intent was, but he hadn't invested in a firm to come in to design what he needed to do to lay out on the project.
Yeah, today, Bertie, he showed us a plan and stuff. That's why I'm suggesting maybe.
Oh yes, he has an over. I apologize. Yes, I have that, and you have the members here have it also of what he intends to do with the field. But I mean, it's hard to go forward and fundraise for a project that you don't have a place for. And he needs this location. It works out well with the adjacent properties down there for the soccer and softball, and it could be an athletic complex overall. But he needs something to go forward with in his fundraising.
Yep. That's what I said. You have to have something there that you're asking people for money. You have to show that you have a facility, at least available to do it with.
And we have the same plan that you saw.
Like I say, in regards to what Selectman Slavin said, I would absolutely positively have the parking lot included in any lease. I could sit here and give you 100 horror stories of things that happened out in the parking lot after football games, between football games, everything from fights, drinking, and I could just go down the whole list. It's not I've seen officials attacked out there.
Yep.
It's not pretty. And the other part, when you look at a project like that, putting a football field is pretty easy. You got to clear a big area and put some lines down, and then you go by the fundraising, building the thing out. You just don't go in and try to, and that can take, depending on the money raised, it can take years and years. But but I would definitely include the parking lot without
Let's keep in mind, let's put this in perspective. This is an unpaid volunteer who is attempting to do something. And I'm not suggesting that's why we should have voted for it. But I said, you cut him a little slack because he's not a professional that we're talking with. He has a day job. And he volunteers. And it's difficult enough to get volunteers to do that. It's something difficult. Jody spent many, many years in football. It's difficult to find people who will do that without getting paid. And he did that. And I might ask, Alan, would you not open and close your pen knife in front of the camera?
Oh, it's not a pen knife. It's a fingernail clipper.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we take no action for lack of information.
Would you like me to ask him to come back again next week?
Well, that seems to be the tone of the conversation.
That's fine. No problem. If that's what you want to do, that's what we'll do.
Well,
yeah, I think if we're going to vote no action, the courteous thing to do would at least convey our concerns to him and give him the opportunity to come and address those specifically.
Okay, no problem. I'll ask him to come back to us next week.
Ernie, I'm confused here. Okay.
Yes.
What's the warrant article say? All this, does it just say that it allows the town administrator to enter into a lease agreement? Does it say for 30 years, 20 years? Or are we just basically saying we can understand, let them enter into a lease agreement, and then what we do is we put our faith in a town administrator to do 3 years or 5 years and set up goals and so forth? Or are we as a finance committee wanting to set goals?
No, we are the finance committee. Not appropriate for us to set any goals.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. What's the warrant article say?
I was just getting out to read it.
Hey, Bernie, while you're doing that, I just got a call from Jared. He's raised his hand. I guess he's sitting there as non-panel member. He's more than happy to speak to you right now if you want.
Oh, yes. He would be.
I just saw Damon's.
Okay, Jared. Okay. There's Damon's up there.
Okay, thank you.
Damon, if you're part of the group now, and if you unmute yourself, you can speak.
Hey, gentlemen, how's it going?
Very good.
I think Jared's trying to make his way in as well. I apologize, bad connection. Actually, I'm a part-time pilot, and I'm in Florida right now enjoying some warmth, so don't be jealous.
Oh, rub it in.
Yeah, I know, a little salt. But a lot of questions that were raised, and I kind of came in halfway, if you give me. But I hear some questions of some uncertainties in terms of what we're trying to do, and I hear a lot of statements saying, or statements by some of the board members saying that Jared's acting essentially alone, and he's not. He's just essentially the spokesperson for this project. He has myself and a lot of other people that are supporting him in this. And somebody did say that we're a nonprofit, which we are, and also they said that we are we're volunteers, and we are, because I'm a firefighter, Jared's a firefighter. We all have day jobs. We gain nothing from this, and I just want to make sure you understand that picture going forward. We don't gain anything. We're literally doing this for Wareham because there's demand for it, and there's been a demand for it, and we're just trying to do what's right for the kids in Wareham, and we're trying to do that by going through the red tape, making sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's, and do whatever it takes in order to achieve that goal. That's literally what we're doing here today and every day, and many meetings that Jared and I myself have. We're just trying to facilitate the demands of the people that need or that have demands of us, and we're trying to facilitate those by getting whatever it is in place for us to be successful, to get the fields, to get the big dreams, to get what we know where the kids in the town deserve. And that's pretty much where we are right now. So we didn't invest because, one, we don't have money. We're not a corporate entity. We don't have an infinite amount of money. We don't have any money in that aspect. We're literally just right now getting the infancy stages of progressing into making it so we can start that. You can start the fundraising campaign. We can show, hey, we got it. Moving forward, this is what we're trying to do. We have fundraising efforts that are going to come down the line, and we're trying to get that point. But without this article change, we literally can't do anything. It's futile for us to spend a $10 on anything, because it does nothing for us in the end. And that's why we're here right now trying to make that happen. And I'm happy to answer questions. I don't know if Jared made his way in,
Jared,
but
I'm in.
He's here. Okay.
Did you want to say anything?
Yes, good evening. I was trying to answer a lot of the questions. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to chime in. So we do have a phased plan. In part off our phase is during the first 2 to 3 years is to clear the land and put in 2 to 3 football fields along with the irrigation and everything else that comes with it. In the next 2-year phase, phase 2, is the plan for the concession stands and maintenance and the rest of the stuff that needs to go into the standard set. The complex of 28,800 square feet that we're planning on, and it is 7.8 million for the complex. That is planned up to 10 years. And in the initial contract that we sent to Mr. Sullivan and the town was if there was no improvements made to the property during the first 10 years, that the property would be reverted back to the town of Wareham. And as Wareham's largest youth sport, Mr. Worthen, I know you brought up, we don't only serve regular tackle football. We have about 120 kids in tackle football. We have over 200 kids in flag football. We have
Jared, your sound cut out.
Yes, yeah, I do have a lot of contacts over there, but I'm not going to bring anything to them until I have the land first. Once I have the land, then I will roll out my entire plan for them. And in the next week, I will have everything set up, and I will also forward to you guys our entire plan, like Ms. Smith, town moderator, asked.
Okay, you stopped talking.
Did
questions?
Everything go through?
Where's the flag football hand being played right now? The touch.
Flag football started 3 years ago, and we've been fighting for fields between the soccer program using Deacon's. We had to use the track field last year because we can't use Spalding because it's during the Gateman season. So we've had to deal with Palmer and the softball program. We haven't had fields. We've had to work around the high school schedule. This year, Bob from Wareham Youth Soccer said that they're going to be using their fields. He deems them ready for so we're going to be using Deacon's. Guys.
So I can answer those questions because I know Jared's having some challenges with his connection. But to reiterate, yes, we used Deacon's Fields this year in agreement with the superintendent, and the superintendent we had to write something up with her, and that's because have been available based on the soccer program having their own fields at Charlotte Furnace. So we allowed for the spring season and only spring season, we're using the Deacon's Fields for our program. And I foresee anywhere between 200 to 250 participants in that program. And we play games on Sundays, and they practice throughout the week, Monday, Saturday. Different teams. We probably end up having anywhere between 16 to 25 teams.
Comments? Tom, do you have any questions or comments you want to
make? And Deacon's is okay right now for you?
Deacon's is more than okay. Deacon's is going to facilitate up to 4 game fields, and we won't even need to line the fields because we purchased our own quarter fields, if you will, and they're portable fields that we roll out, we stake, and then once the games are over, we take them up, we roll them on spools, and then the field's basically left unscathed. Not to say we don't have the option to line. This is just that, if we had to, we can do that. And that's how we did it last season, our 2019 season before COVID. We lined all our fields using this porta field, and then we would take it up, and then nobody would even know we were there. And that's the way everyone liked it. And that's the way we like to keep it. So we keep everybody happy so we can facilitate this for all the kids we have. So DKIS fits our needs, just like it fit the soccer needs. Again, our field dimensions are fairly similar. So we were able to mitigate any kind of challenges in terms of logistics by having all of those game fields within one location. Versus at the high school, we had to use Palmer Field, which is on High Street, and we had to use Palmer Field for my younger kids, 5 to 6 year olds, and then we had the field on Viking Drive, the old soccer field, and then we had the track. And those are the 3 fields I had to operate on. And logistically, that was tough for parents because they had to bring their 5-year-old to one field, and if they're playing at the same time, then they had to pick which kid they were going to watch because the fields are so far apart. So logistically, having all those fields in one ideal location, it allows parents to be able to be at one place at the same time versus having to split their family apart. And it just again, it goes along with the logistical challenges we have and try to make this work. And we made it work. It was a challenge. We had a lot of complaints from parents. And then once we educated them on what our challenges and issues are, they seemed to kind of understand and root for us and support us. Knowing that wasn't our intent to separate them from those games. But when we're trying to make this program work and the amount of kids we're essentially reaching out to and introducing to the sport, it's just part of the process. And we're just trying to, again, reach out more and make it more streamlined and have more of a positive experience for everybody, kids, parents, town, citizens, everybody.
I never even realized there was a flag football league going on. I certainly was aware of the league you have going, or the tackle football you have. And the gatemen have been trying to get you to go to West Farms or whatever they call it out there for a long time. So, I mean, all of that is good, but the plan you have laid out to grab a piece of land for 30 years without the resources to put together what the whole thing entails, it seems rather incredible.
Right. So I guess what I'm hearing with all this is not so much what we're trying to do. It's the timeline that seems to be the worry here as far as where we are today. And then if we don't reach a set amount of a set goal by a set time, that's the worry of some of the members. Is that my understanding? Is that we're asking for 30 years, but if we just stall and hold the land for 30 years, the fear is that we just tie it up and avoid. And if we're not progressing as an organization, then it adversely affects the ability to use that land for other programs. Is that my understanding?
Yes, that was a concern that they had. Yes.
And it's a valid concern. I share that concern if I was in your position as well. The challenge, I guess, would be is that there's uncertainties in everything that we do right now. And we originally were asking for a greater amount of time, solely based on the premise that we would need a lot more time to fundraise and need more time to raise the funds in order to facilitate such a great idea. And where we are now, we don't have that ability because we don't have the land to procure it in order for us to have that kind of campaign going forward. So in order for us to do that, like we said before, we had to have something in place to say that's tangible. We got it. We're doing it. This is our land for this time. We need to make this happen, and we can, because now it's not just a dream or a goal. Now it's a reality. And until that point, we literally have our hands tied. So, and the fear is there. We understand. We're a bunch of parents. We're dads and moms that are getting together for our kids in the community that are trying to make this work. So we don't have an infinite amount of resources. I know Mr. Chadwick, he has resources that are in place once we get to that point, but and again, that's not a guarantee either. But there's something that we're striving for, and we feel confident going forward. But in terms of the duration of that 30-year lease, like Mr. Slavin was saying, or we could come to an agreement. We could come to a term. We can come to a plan, a phased approach, like Mr. Chadwick said earlier. It's just a matter of having that discussion, really.
Well, it sounds like within the lease itself, within the body, there are certain benchmarks you have to accomplish in order to maintain the lease. And I think that was one of the strong questions they were asking about, in that it protects the town and it doesn't tie up, as you yourself has just pointed out, doesn't tie up the property for 30 years and yet nothing is accomplished.
So did you guys, sorry, my computer was really bad glitching earlier. Did you guys hear anything I said earlier?
Half of it.
All right, I apologize. So in the original thing that we sent to Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Slavin was for us to lease the land for 30 years. And if there was no improvements on the land in said 10 years, then the land would be returned back to the town of Wareham. In the original state, it was supposed to be found. Now, as for the fundraising and everything like that, I can't bring anything to any people that I know on Nantucket until I have land. I can't go to people and say, hey, can you lend us or can you give us a whole bunch of money? Will you donate to this 501c3 for this project, for this property? But there's no guarantee we're going to get the land. I can't do that. It doesn't make sense. And as of right now, I'm not going to take money out of our bank account to do it, which means we'd be taking money away from the kids in upcoming season and springs. Everything that's been spent so far on plans has been favors done to people I know for in trade for work with my construction company on the side, or has been money coming out of my own pocket.
It would seem to me that you've got to go and go through all the steps and say how you're going to evolve and get all of these facilities in place over what time period.
I have it right here. Right here. All right. So phase one, with an estimated cost of, and this is what I worked on over the last week, calling people left and right in my time off. Phase one, with an estimated cost of $250,000, is to survey, clear, and level the land, establish a dirt parking lot, install irrigation, and build 3 sports fields with a projected time frame of 2 to 3 years. Phase two, with a cost of $200,000, to construct a concession stand and storage shed, along with game stands around the main game field, with a projected time of 2 years from phase one. Phase three, with a projected cost of $8.8 million. Now, I said before, $7.8 million is for the building. With a projected cost of $8.8 million to build a 28,800 square foot complex with a paved parking lot and fence.
Jared, when you get the opportunity, would you send me a copy of that and I'll distribute it to the members?
Yes, I will. I've been working on this nonstop, and I'm trying to finish it up for Ms. Smith, like you asked last week. As soon as I finish it, if you can please give me 2 days, I will gladly send it right over to you. I'm on shift tomorrow, so.
Jared,
that'll be great.
What's the timeline for the $8 million thing at the end? How long is that?
Our goal is to have everything completely done in 10 years from the original day that we're done, the original day that we signed the lease.
Okay, so from my point of view, everything you said is fine. We'll give you a 30-year lease. These are the milestones. You meet them or you don't. If you don't meet them, the property comes back to the town, or we renegotiate. That's all.
I'm sorry, you broke up there, Mr. Novak.
You've laid out all these milestones. All we're saying is, I think, that it will give you the 30-year lease with these milestones in it. If the milestone isn't met, either the lease terminates or we renegotiate.
Okay.
That's all. I mean, we just, you know, I don't think we want to leave this here for 30 years and get a parking lot. Okay? Neither do you.
That's fully understandable.
Yeah. So
it's fully understandable.
We just need measurable milestones so that progress is being made. And we know that we're getting closer to what it is that we've leased the land for. That's all. I don't disagree with it.
And within that, project what your audience is. How many people you're going to be? How many kids are going to be in each of the programs, and how those are going to grow. So you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do that to raise the money anyway. I mean, that's part of it.
That is correct. So,
and as a preamble, you ought to show what you've done to date, what you've got for kids involved, so that you say, okay, this is the platform we're starting from. We're just trying to now consolidate into something that makes more sense to operate, to go forward from.
So, Mr. Worthen, we have currently right now, there is roughly about 120 in tackle. There is close to...
This is just part of your presentation.
I know. I wasn't sure if you heard what I had said earlier. My computer kept messing up. My apologies.
Oh, I'm well familiar with the tackle part of it. That's it.
We're familiar with computers messing up too.
Now, I want to qualify everything. We talked about what we would like to see in the leasing contract, but the final decision as to what is in the contract and what is the requirements of the contract is the negotiations between the Wareham Tigers and the town administrator, and then approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Anything else, gentlemen? Yes, Jody.
I hate to give a what if, but I've seen this happen. Let's say, Jared, you're not here forever. Nobody is. What happens if you don't find anybody to take this project over? I mean, you get halfway through it, you've done a great job or whatever. I mean, everybody moves on at some point. You know, more times than not, when kids leave programs, a lot of times the adults leave with them. You know, that's a concern everywhere. That's not just a Wareham problem, but volunteers are very hard to find in this day and age. They're extremely hard to find. And I'm sure you're running into that somewhat. That would be my only.
So my pension doesn't kick in until I'm 57, so I'm stuck here. So I pray to God by 57, I'm only 36, that I really hope someone takes over. I mean, my kids will be 27 and 30 at that point. I'm hoping they have kids of their own, and you know, maybe they'll take over. But just to tell you guys a little bit about me here real quick is I'm someone that is a huge go-getter. Mr. Slavin has already seen that. I was told at a young age that I could never get my paramedic. I wasn't smart enough. I legit went and got my paramedic just to say I could. When I say I will do anything in my power to get this project going, I am knocking on everyone's door. And not only in this town, I'm knocking on doors in Quincy, in Boston, Nantucket. I'm knocking on a gentleman's door who's valued at $1.8 billion, who's donating to some funds in Alaska where they've never even been before. So I am knocking on all these doors of all these people that I grew up with. So I'm hoping within 10 years, this thing's completely done. And if it's, you know, we do find someone to come and take it over, that it's all set and ready for them. And after the 30 years is done, at that point, if nobody else is going to take it over, then, hey, I guess the town's going to get a sweet building.
You need a hockey rink too, kids. Come on. The horizon's out there. We'll keep you busy.
Hey, I want everything.
And we hope it works.
I just want to say we're not opposed to this at all. I think this.
No, I know.
We need some kind of measurable progress, and I think you're going to need it to raise the money. I mean, if you go 5 years and you haven't raised a nickel, nobody's going to give you a lot of money. So you got to be able to say to people, these are the timelines I need. This is what I need. And we're all in favor of this. It's just 30 years is a long time to tie up a major piece of property. That's all, without any performance goals. That's all we're saying.
And I certainly hope you do stay involved. There's not a lot of guys like you around anymore. I mean, I have 41 years in football. So
I love it. I love football.
I do too.
It was my entire youth from first grade until my senior year. That's the only way you got off Nantucket, truthfully. It was you either sat in your room at home, went out fishing, or you got on the boat and go played the other schools off island, and you got to stay in a hotel. And I mean, for a 14, 15, 16-year-old, get to go stay in a hotel and go check out a mall. It's the best thing in the world.
You had some pretty good teams off there, too.
Oh, yeah.
Nantucket was great until my sophomore year. We were phenomenal until my sophomore year. And then soccer started taking over, but we'll save that for a different day.
Everyone keep in mind when you say you talk in terms of 30 years, I believe that's the same length of a lease that the softball fields have, as well as the soccer.
Mr. Chairman, they have 1 to 5 year leases. And the reason that they have that is because I believe state law says that the selectmen can do 1 to 5 year leases without approval from town meeting. And the reason we're asking for a longer lease is because we're looking to put a large, substantial amount of money into it. So, you know, let's say 5 years down the road, we have something in there, and, you know, something happens if selectmen 5 years down the road say, we don't want that over there anymore, but you've already built it, and they, you know, nullify the lease. So that's our main reason for doing that.
All right, I stand corrected, and from a business point of view, I agree with your approach. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Not a question, but I just want to compliment you for making the effort and having the vision to carry this forward. I think this will be a great contribution to the town of Wareham, to its residents, to its children, and its future. So thank you. And I think if you can present a schedule, as several people have asked for, I think you have it. I think you have the information. And I think we should go and send you to deal with Derek and come up with a lease. I'd like to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Thank you.
The option is if we can go forward, and I'll accept a motion. However,
I think you already had the motion and a second, Bernie. This was discussion. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. If you like to, whomever wants to, made the motion, withdraw it and wait till you see the paperwork that Jared is going to send me. That'll be fine, and we'll take a vote on it next week. However, with Jared and Damon here, it's a perfect time to ask any more additional questions. But if not, let me know what you would like to do. Now I'll call for a vote.
I will withdraw my motion.
Okay. Who made the second, Jared? Jody?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
We'll assume the second's been withdrawn. And we'll definitely take a vote on this next week. And Jared and Damon, by all means, if you want to join us in again next week.
Please do.
Gladly will, and I'll be able to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay.
And I'll be sure to bring the Florida weather back with me.
Yes.
Okay. If you won't be next week.
To Florida for you.
Yeah.
I have one question for Jared.
Yes.
When you send the information to Bernie, you said that there are some other fields like Sandwich and perhaps some other towns. If you could give us the location, perhaps one or two of us may take a drive and take a look at some of the other fields, what other people have done.
Yes, the other field is the only other one that I know of from playing with them because they're in Old Colony Youth Football is the Sandwich program right now. I believe the other ones in our division still use the school fields.
There's also Lakeville, Freetown, Lakeville. They have their own facility as well.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, if you're in the Foxborough area, they got one. Foxborough Major Football's got one right next to the stadium.
Oh, well, maybe if we could get just a couple of addresses, maybe I'll take a field trip.
Yeah, no problem. We'll have to do that.
Sounds good. I will grab those and get those to you guys.
Great.
And just to be sure, I want everybody aware, especially Jared and Damon, if they choose to join us, it'll be in 2 weeks. Next week, our meeting is an all-day meeting regarding the various department budgets and reviewing them. And
so
taking any notes. So
17th.
St. Patrick's Day?
17th.
Oh, you're right.
St. Patrick's Day?
St.
Yes.
Patrick's Day.
Not short on you to
I
bring
realize
something.
that you said it.
Okay. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, before we wind this up, I received the warrant was closed last night by the selectmen. And there's some 25 articles. First 10 are rather the very typical ones that we have at every meeting. It goes through the capital planning, the compensation for the moderator and the some other position there in the town meeting. I'm surprised Article 1 is the town elections, and I thought we'd move that to beginning of May. But then the balance are primarily the articles that we had passed over at the last town meeting we had at under the roof over at the VFW. And what I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to ask you if there's, although we've already made recommendations on them, if though there are any articles you would like to re-examine and perhaps have the presenter of the article to join us, and that would be in 2 weeks. And one, some are very mundane here, the sign zoning bylaw amendment, the drive-through district, amending the zoning bylaw for setbacks for marijuana. That's for the one next to Diga School, which will be probably moot by the time we get to it. Amend the zoning bylaw regarding residential use definitions. The Wareham Village Reinvestment Subdistrict rezoning. That's for Long Merchants Way. The amendments to Town Charter, Chart 1, which is basically the just the definitions. The amendments to Town Charter, Chart 2, which has the description. The first one is changing just to correcting the wording, punctuation, etc. In Chart 2, it's now into definitions, and I'll describe them. In Chart 1, I think the more prominent one that it actually does, it changes the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. The next one is the endorsement for the master plan. And then we have the naming of the new elementary school. And also we have the ban on sales of nips.
Wait, can I address the nip one? I saw the nips. The nip,
yes.
Refundable, the nip ban.
Yes, yes, with the ban of sales nips. And that's...
that was 6-2 vote. I thought we already reconsidered that. You know, it was a 1-7 vote, not to recommend.
Well, we may have. I just asked, I'm not asking to change anything. I just say if anybody wants to re-examine it, I'll ask the petitioner to come in. We can also change our votes too if we've had change of heart. And I'll run through that next in 2 weeks also. But these two are the naming the school and the ban on NEPs were both petitioned articles.
Right.
The selectmen had obligated themselves to bring it back on the warrant. Any of those you want to review? Have anyone come forward?
Well, if I'm wrong, that I thought we voted 1-7 for a recommendation.
Oh, we may have. I'm not suggesting anything other than the only reason.
I looked in the book and I looked at something.
Yeah, just in case you wanted to re-examine, that's all.
Okay.
Can't imagine this committee is going to take a position.
You speak up, Stuart.
I'm sorry, I can't imagine this committee is going to take a position in the naming of the school.
Yeah, I You're right. We
didn't.
We walked that one back.
And we didn't take a position on it, but it's one of those that are coming forward. So I'm giving you the option of wanting to discuss it if you should do so. Alan?
If you decide you want to discuss the banning of NIPS, it's not a deposit, it's just banning, because you can't put the town is not allowed to put a deposit on anything. We don't have that ability. That comes from the state. Mary Bruce has moved out to Florida for a while. She's not in town anymore. She was the first signature. So if you need anything, I can speak on that article.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And as Jody has commented, we have already passed approve or disapprove on all of those articles. And I'm just giving you the opportunity to have a second bite of the apple, so to speak. Okay, there being none, our next meeting is next Wednesday.
Where's the hospitality district? Where's all of that?
That's on the special. That's
before this one.
Yes, that's April 10th at the football field.
Okay.
Now, I had a conversation with Jeff. In fact, I got an email from him today. The proposal for the Racino, as it was referred to back in 2018, is they are not pursuing that option at all. They are pursuing the property only in the context of being a developer, and they have it's an interesting piece of property, and they're interested in that basis. They initially came forward and were the proposer originally of the rezoning, and over the fourth or fifth iteration of the document, it's quite generic, and read it over and refresh yourself if you need to. But we'll take a look at that also in 2 weeks and take quotes on that.
Do we know what the zoning is on the Plymouth abutting property?
No, although it's I know it's a heavily residential area. I have friends who live in that area, and it was a huge development that was initially proposed umpteen years ago. And there was several hundred homes that were built in that area. I think Glen Charlie Road leads right into that residential district or area.
Yes, it does. River Road.
Is there anything, gentlemen?
No.
Okay, I remind you that next Wednesday, 9 a.m. Now the ID and the password code is different for that particular meeting because of the type of meeting it is and the length of time. All our other meetings, the ID and the password you use for this evening's meeting is the same for all of our meetings. Steve Roos has set that up.
Perhaps Steve could send out the information for our next meeting, perhaps the day before, so we'll make sure we have it. We haven't got rid of it someplace along the way.
Okay, I'll make sure
do that. That would be good.
And I've also asked, or am going to ask, all the department heads, because they have the schedule now of when they're due to sign in, to provide me with any paperwork they may want to present by Monday prior to. And because I'm not sure if they, and let alone I know effect of how to bring their documents up. I was talking with Bob earlier, who is now handling under the Steve Ruiz name, and he was a little vague of how to bring a document up. So in case we need to do that, I'll become hopefully more proficient and be able to do that should they bring their budgets in and not have provided us with that paperwork prior to, because we have about 12 to 15 budgets we go through with at a minimum. And having a piece of paper in my hand is much easier. Also, it's a lot easier to get it down to Stuart and have him have it ahead of time. Anything else, gentlemen?
Bernie, one thing. The moderator sent off a note to me. I'm trying to find it, which has to do with that zoning article.
Yes.
I think she's let me read it for you just so you know. The moderator is concerned that the people have been unable to track the changes to the East Wareham Hospitality, Entertainment, Recreation article on April 10th, special town meeting warrant. Accordingly, she is insisting that we create a special town meeting within the April 10th special town meeting so that article goes on fresh, as it were. Okay.
I understand what your point. Yeah, we've gone through about 4 or 5 iterations of it, as I mentioned, and it would be difficult because I've had to write my date on every one of them now in order to keep track of which one was which.
You know when you're going to actually vote on that article?
In 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, I think I'll get, I'll talk to Ken. He has the latest one, and let's see if we can't have Matt put it up on the website or something to that so it's available anyway. Okay, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Bernie, one question.
Yes.
Is the 2020 master plan on the town's website?
It'd probably be under the planning.
Could be in the planning.
Because the planning board is the parent of that document. I think that's where it is. Yes.
Where do you think?
Under the planning board.
Okay.
Documents, sub group of documents. I know there are some pages that are not up to date, but I believe that is in there.
Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? If you need any more information or if something's missing or you feel you've misplaced something, by all means, let me know. I have a ton of papers all over the place and I'm certain I must have it somewhere. Motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? None. Oh, motion taken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, aye. Good night. Stay safe.
I'll abstain.
Has to be one. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Bernie, I'll call you.